All right. Hey, it's Alexander Lawrence, the Portable Infinite. We go, you know, it's this week is gangbusters. It's like, yeah, like I was watching this morning. I was watching Kiss because when I was a kid, when I was 12 years old, I saw Kiss at Anaheim Stadium. Like when I was a kid, then I was 12, and I think it was on August 20th. I was watching that video. It's on YouTube and stuff. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, that's one of my earliest shows. Was there like any shows that you saw early on?
I always wanted to see Kiss, but I kind of got into Kiss at Alive too.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I was a little young. Like, like I wanted to go, but my parents were like, "No, you're
Yeah,
not."
yeah, that was gonna be. I think my friend Jeff can make it. Like when I was in junior high in '76, when I was in junior high, only me, my brother, and this guy Jim Bartanian were the only Kiss fans. Everybody was they became more popular by like you say, like Kiss Alive too. So we're here with Dave Trump. How do you say your name? Trumpio.
Trumfio, Dave
Trumfio.
Trumfio.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
giving the accent on the wrong one. So he started out in Chicago. He was working with he was more kind of known as a producer. He was playing in bands like from very early age. But he ended up being like he had some technical prowess, I guess you can call it.
yeah,
So he started working with Billy Bragg, Wilco, Mekons, Young Marble Giants, Barbara Manning, who was kind
yeah,
of wasn't she based in the Bay Area though?
yeah, yeah. She was Bay. Yeah,
Yeah, because I know Pat Thomas and Heyday Records, so I kind of consider her kind of more of a Bay. And
yeah. She's definitely West Coast. She came to Chicago and we made a record with "Feel Good All Over," which is John Henderson, a good friend of mine's label.
so a lot of people that record stuff, there's downtime. So you just go, okay, well, let's just record some of our own tracks. And so I kind of feel like the Pulsars kind of maybe started that way. The Pulse, like in Dave Trumpio, like started a band called the Pulsars with his brother, and it was kind of like White Stripe style, kind of, and like a duo, kind of.
Well, yeah, yeah. We were a duo before it was cool to be a duo.
Because I saw some of the videos, and it kind of you're on guitar and your brother's on the drums.
Yeah, and then the rest is programmed, like synth bass and keyboards. Before that was kind of cool. It was pretty out of fashion at the time what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. The '90s are kind of. I want to ask you some questions about that. Yeah. So he started the Pulsars. They signed a big deal. They kind of were quiet for many years, and then a couple years ago they released the kind of like a spare. What was it, like spare tracks?
I, yeah, like B-sides and like extra tracks that wouldn't fit on like the upcoming records we're going to be putting out.
But yeah, I mean, but this next month we're having the original release, the Pulsars record. That people know it's kind of known. Record collectors and people in the know kind of know the record, but it kind of ended up being just a Chicago thing. Like you guys like opened up the Pulsars were like the go like sometimes in LA there's like bands that seem like they open up every show for all the big bands and stuff, and the Pulsars were that for maybe a couple years.
For a second, yeah, we play like Oasis and Blur were some of our early shows. Um, we did do a lot of national touring. We did do like Supergrass, Weezer,
Oh, you went along with Supergrass on that first tour?
yeah, and Chibo Motto, Man Rasterman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
We did a bunch of national
yeah,
touring.
I could never really figure out Chicago because I went there and visited a couple times, and then I went as a tour manager with some bands, and I went to the Empty Bottle, and then I went to Space and
Sure.
Evanston, and but I could never. I mean, it never really felt like a dangerous city because maybe I wasn't going in the right neighborhoods or something, and then
It's not dangerous. That's the news concoction. I'm sorry.
yeah, I know.
It was way more dangerous in the late '80s, early '90s when I was living in Wicker
Well,
Park.
well,
You
yeah,
know?
but I went to the first time I went there was '91, and it didn't.
Yeah.
I went to the Museum of Modern Art there, and it didn't seem very dangerous back then either. But
Nah, it's just relative. I mean, every city has its like areas you want to kind of stay away from, but I mean, there's a few of those,
uh,
in
well,
Chicago for sure.
yeah,
I mean, I do hear people getting like mugged and stuff here and there, but like any other major city, you're gonna run into that kind of stuff. I just think the news blow it out of
Yeah,
proportion.
I was saying from the LA perspective, I'm from LA and California, and I
Yeah.
lived in San Francisco, and I had a few years in New York. You go to places like Chicago and DC. I just never really can figure out the
Yeah.
cities, because it's like, and then I meet people from Chicago, and they don't actually live in the city. They live like 30 minutes, like in some
Yeah.
suburb out there. So
Yeah. There's a lot of people that say they're from Chicago, but I would say they're from Chicago land. That's what they call it. Yeah, exactly.
but like yeah, I mean, but at the same time, Chicago. I mean, we kind as an LA person, we kind of see like LA, New York is, but Chicago. I mean, a lot of the distributions, like touch and go distribution was like a big
Yep.
thing for a long time.
Mhm.
Film Threat. Like the Chicago Underground Film. There's a lot of things in
Yeah, film
Chicago that
festival. Yeah.
the film
Yeah.
festival, and there's a lot of things there. Yeah, of course, a lot of the bands it seems like that you worked with were kind of touch and go bands.
Yeah, in that sphere, in the definitely the Midwest indie rock sphere, or more East Coast sphere of indie rock. Yeah. Um, yeah, it seemed like that was kind of my bread and butter for a while there. I mean, I helped like launch a few bands. Handsome Family, I did their first few
Uh,
records. I'm not
yeah,
sure if you're familiar with them.
yeah, I interviewed. Yeah, because I mean, let me just kind of go to some of the. I mean, I interviewed those guys. I mean, they had some families.
Brett and Rennie.
They seem like kind of David Lynchian and kind of. Oh,
Yeah, I mean they're they can be straight ahead kind of country, kind of like classic country, but I would say they're more on the kind of David Lynch goth country side. I mean,
yeah,
their
yeah, a little
lyrics
bit.
are really dark, and they'd have a couple murder ballads early on that they
Yeah,
did.
yeah. It's a little bit. When I think of that band, I think of like Nick Cave and Tom Waits and Sparkle Horse.
Definitely, they have that. They have this great early song I recorded called Arlene, which is about as classic as any murder ballad out there is.
Yeah, that was,
Cool.
and and you of course later did worked with Granddaddy, who I also interviewed,
Yeah, love Jason.
and actually, I mean, when I listened to the first Pulsars record, I kind of reminded me a little bit of like Granddaddy, what they did later in the in the later time,
Yeah, it's funny. Jason, when I first met Jason, he mentioned he dug that our first record, the one that we're reissuing next month. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you mentioned Built to Spill. American Music Club was like another big San Francisco band with Barbara Manning. Like when I was
Yeah.
there, and Mark Eitzel was kind of like the king of San Francisco for a while.
Yeah, Mark.
And the Rentals. They were kind of like another 90s band. Well, like getting to the 90s, I mean, it seems like South by bands were still getting signed off of the South by Southwest. I don't know if you guys ever went there and played South by.
We never played South by at Pulsars. But I know plenty of bands that have over the years, and then I started going to South by, and I don't know if I've ever played South by, even with like the Mekons and stuff.
Yeah, because like I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that band, well, the Chicago band, the Baruch Assault. I mean, they definitely
Yeah.
were a big in
Yeah.
'94, whatever year it was. It was like
Yes.
they were kind of like almost like seen as a kind of an industry plant. It's like, oh, here's this band that's like the Breeders that just kind of came
Hmm.
out of nowhere, that kind of formed, and then they were superstars like in 6 months, like really fast. And I mean,
Yeah. Well, yeah, they were signed to Minty Fresh, which was the owner was, or at the current was currently Geffen A&R for a second, or can't remember, Jim Powers. But yeah, I mean, I think there were a lot of bands that kind of in that period. I mean, one classic example is Smashing Pumpkins. Like they were signed to the major label before they put out the Caroline record.
oh, okay.
But it was kind of like back then, it was not cool to be on a major label. So there was always like the initial indie release, but it was all kind of done with back deals. It seemed like with the
Yeah,
bands that really kind of like you're saying, that kind of like went from like one indie release to like all over the place.
or
Uh,
or sometimes they did like an indie within a major kind of thing. Like
yeah, but like in the case of like certain bands, I know like that. I don't know for 100% fact, but I heard a lot of them already had the major deal in place. It was just kind of,
What
we're going to put this out through an indie. It's a better look.
wasn't Garbage? Wasn't that kind of a label kind of set up for them, or what? What was that label?
Well, that was Elmo. That's who signed to Pulsars. That's Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss.
Yeah, but
So after they had A&M, yeah.
was that like an indie within a larger thing there?
Well, it depends how you look at it. I mean, A&M technically was an indie from day one. They basically started that label with their own money in their garage. You know, as far as the success, they became a major. So technically, Elmo was another indie they started, but they were running it through Geffen. So Geffen was handling like all the back office stuff, and we signed. That was kind of a big bonus for us. Was like, hey, it's a small label. Um, I was just over the moon that we got to be on Herb Alpert's label. He actually played on our record and stuff. I love Herb Alpert. I love that whole kind of Tijuana brass thing. And so it was just like, hey, whoa, this is great. This is, boutique label through a really cool label. Like I hold Geffen at one of the highest levels of labels, just their histories and
I think,
stuff they were doing,
Yeah, I think Herb Alpert. I mean, that Tijuana Brass record. I think was the first like really big multi-million seller record.
Yeah, and they did that. They started that all in their garage. That was totally indie.
So I
think today,
So I think the whole kind of resistance to the majors. I mean, I guess that's a punk rock thing because the Clash and some others, Wire signed to majors, but Stiff Little Fingers put out a record on Rough Trade, and that seemed a little bit more like natural. Like, okay, go on an indie, do Rough Trade, see how it does, and kind of like do a graphics thing and stuff. And so I think when we get to the 90s and the grunge thing, and like I think like Sub Pop was originally like a small unknown label, and Caroline, and even like Touch and Go were all kind of like, oh yeah. And bands kind of had this sort of, I mean, there was like the Jesus Lizard and a lot of these bands. I mean, they can't, they weren't just trying to please the audience. There was sort of an antagonism, in band, like in the punk, which also comes from punk. Like, let's antagonize each other. Punk rock is a little sadistic, and then okay, and then they kind of let you off the hook, and then it's like, it's okay, it's antagonistic, it's violent, but we're all having a good time. But I think it was just like the whole kind of thing of just making music to please people, and just like having a hit.
I mean, I didn't really care either way personally. I mean, I was very involved with the indie world because I was making a lot of records with indie labels as an engineer and a producer. Like Pulsars kind of, at the time, it seemed like we came out of nowhere, but, Harry and I were in 6 bands before we had the Pulsars. We played house parties when we were in high school on up to like gingiest clubs. And we cut our teeth before we started the Pulsars. And Pulsars was, I think you said, like extra time around the studio. It was kind of like that. It was just like, hey, like Harry, let's just like kind of like get back to our roots and write some like 3-minute pop songs. We grew up like listening to 45s and stuff. And so it's just like, kind of going back to our roots. It kind of happened really fast. And I never thought the plan was always to put it out on Feel Good All Over. Our friend John, who we did Barbara Manning with, and he was really early. Like he basically was the guy who brought like Liz Phair to anybody's attention. He was roommates with Liz, and girly sound tapes. I think he had something to do with that, or was so. I mean, at the time, I wasn't even thinking like major indie, like nothing like that. So we were just making the record, and one thing led to the next, and we had major labels offering us deals, and we're like, okay, like that's fine. We're disposable pop music. I guess it makes sense. We always saw ourselves as that. Like we weren't trying to be like cool. We were just making songs.
Well, I think also the thing with majors and indies is majors, they want more control over this. They want singles. They want they want you to do a video. I mean, back then to play on MTV,
Yeah.
they're more they'll listen to a record and go, hey, you gotta write a single here. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
don't hear
That
the
was definitely part of it. That was definitely
where are the hooks? Whereas independent, I mean that most of the guys that are independent labels are either, you know, guys from radio stations, or, you know, they work at a record store, or they're just like big music fans, and they just believe in the bands, you know, whether it's commercial or the, you know, or non-commercial.
totally, totally. And
They just,
that's
that's
100% where things were with the indie scene then. Yeah. For
but
sure.
yeah, and then, well, the thing with the majors too is like there's more control. I mean, you could kind of see like in the '90s. I mean, there was all those bands like Harvey Danger that just had like the one
Yeah.
song, or
I
something.
remember that Pole Sitter was their song. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. I know the guy. I know the guy that worked for London Records who signed them. I used to hang out with him
Yeah.
in Brooklyn and stuff.
Yeah, I like that, man.
Yeah, they were. I mean, yeah, I guess Cake was sort of like that for a while, but you know, like they
Mhm.
just kind of like had like the one big song that really got pushed because
Yeah, you know, once you get in there, you got to play the game, and there is that whole huge business, and you might have like a one-hit wonder situation, and then boom, it's done. I mean, I think with the Pulsars, I think we were always like the whole like idea of writing hooks and pop songs was kind of the whole goal of the band, when we first set out to do it, and so I mean, it just so happens that we got signed, we did a bunch of stuff for a really short period of time, made some waves, and then went away. But it wasn't really because we got dropped. Herb and Jerry just closed Elmo Sounds,
well,
and you
yeah.
know,
Well,
so
well,
we
the
just
thing, yeah, the thing with a lot of these majors is sometimes the people that sign the band, you know, when it takes like
Mhm.
a year or two for the record to come out, sometimes
Yeah,
those people have been fired or have left the label. And,
absolutely.
and then
That's a
a
common
bunch of
thing.
new people come in and they look Pulsars. Well, we didn't sign these guys, you know. They'll release it and just kind of forget. Is that kind of something like that happened to you?
No, no. I mean, Herb and Jerry were there. We had the same A&R guy all through. We finished our second record. We were about to like get into like mastering the second record and figuring out like the marketing plan, and we got a phone call saying Herb and Jerry have decided they didn't like where streaming, like the idea of iTunes was about to happen. And they were like, we don't really, this isn't the business we got into. And they literally just said, hey guys, we're not having fun doing this anymore. We're going to close the label. It's going to be taken over by Universal. Like, if you want to keep going, here's like, blah, blah, blah. Like, we had the choice to keep going or sign other deals, take our masters, or not all our masters, but our second record master. And
Yeah.
at the time we were like, well, I want a recording studio, and we actually doing the big record deal helped us build the recording studio better. We're like one of the first studios in Chicago to have Pro Tools because of it. But like, the idea was like, I can make masters like next week. I can go and re-record this stuff, if I really want to. So we just decided. My brother wanted to go finish his degree, and I was actually producing records like at the time. That's right when I finished working. You mentioned like Wilco Summer Teeth, Mermaid Avenue. I was developing OK Go, I was busy. So I was just like, hey, like what we've done this for 6 years now, so let's just take a hiatus. And the hiatus is 25 years later.
Like
So
I asked this about a lot of bands. Do you retain the rights to your masters, or that's why?
no, so like when we did the deal, it was a real deal, and um, we part of like getting out of the deal, there were some decisions to be made. Like, we had a 3 firm deal and we didn't even put our second record out. So that's a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo that happened. And, we made our decisions and we didn't get our masters. We were never going to get our first record master anyway. So um, it's just what it is, And unfortunately, because Herb and Jerry were so strong about their feeling on streaming, none of our stuff got digitized. So our record, our EPs, none of it went to iTunes. None of it eventually got to Spotify. So our music's never been available in the modern world, which is pretty weird. I mean, it's pretty rare.
Mm.
So we literally got mountained. We got put into the gold mountain, as they say, we don't have our masters, like there was the big fire that happened. So we're basically, you know, through different legal reasons, like we got the masters back. So we have the masters back now. But it is 20 something years later. So like, but this is the first time where it's going to be out in the modern world. So it's the first time you're going to be able to go, hey, I want to hear the Pulsars first record. Go to Spotify, go to wherever you go, and it's going to be there. It's only on YouTube right now, and it's all fan uploaded. So none of the stuff on YouTube is official.
Yeah,
It's
some of
just
that
people.
stuff. Yeah, that's some of the stuff I watched, and
Yeah.
yeah, and
So all that's just people putting it up there, not us. We didn't do any of it. So but now we are. Now we've taken the reins back, and we're gonna start putting stuff out.
so you did this record. You did like kind of a B-side record a few years ago. You
Yeah.
printed it on vinyl,
Yeah, Lost Transmissions that's that record.
and you said in another interview that you've done like 5 other records. So we're gonna release some of the other stuff, or what you do?
Yeah. So kind of part of the process of like getting the masters back and just kind of going once the dust settled several years later. This is going back now probably like 5 or 6 years. Um, pre-COVID actually. I started going through the catalog and just digitizing tapes and stuff that I had that didn't go into the mountain. And we have a shit ton of music that we did. I mean, we were around for about 6 years, constantly recording. We have a little over 80 like proper kind of songs that are mixed and kind of in the form that we can release. So we John Henderson, who was Feel Good All Over, he has a new label called Tiny Global out of Spain. He moved to Europe, and we reconnected, and he became our manager when we were signed to Elmo. So we've been basically figuring out what we're going to do, and he came up with 5 actual releases out of the catalog. There's 2 unreleased records. There's an ambient record because like our early shows and even like this upcoming tour we're going to do this fall, we're going to incorporate our ambient stuff more. We used to do like where we'd start the song with an ambient and then play like a little 3-minute pop song and then go into like an ambient and kind of intertwine ambient with these pop songs. So we have an album of ambient stuff that we did over the years. We have a covers record. Trying to remember what else. Yeah. So I mean, we got a lot of stuff.
There'll be a lot of stuff. So if people
Yeah.
want to stay up with you, is there like a website? Is it Kingside Sound Labs, or is it the Pulsars.com, or where do you go to
Well,
find
we do
out?
have a website. We do have like a landing page, and it drives you to all our socials and stuff. We're on Instagram, Facebook.
Okay.
We haven't done the TikTok yet. I mean, we've been thinking about it, but you know, we're not trying to be pop stars.
So,
So
some of these other bands you work with, we mentioned the Wilco. You kind of
yeah.
that was more recently, or is that the early stuff?
No. So Wilco was just actually towards the end of Chicago before I moved to LA. I ended
Oh,
up moving to LA in 2000.
so you've been here since
Um,
2000, yeah.
yeah, so I have a studio called King Size Sound Labs and over in Glass Hill Park, and we're a pretty active studio. A couple partner studios, Gold Diggers in Hollywood, and
Yeah.
64 Sound in Highland Park. Um,
Oh,
so
you're involved with Gold Diggers?
yes, I'm the studio partner of Gold Diggers. Yeah,
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
a hotel club and a studio.
Yeah, I've been to some shows there.
Yeah. So I helped design that room, and I don't know if you noticed, but there's like bass trapping and clouds up in the ceiling. They're all black, so you can't really see them.
Okay.
Lights
I'll look for it next time.
but
So
yeah, I think I'm pretty proud of that room.
So there's Wilco, Alternative TV, Young Marble Giants, Stuart Moxham, Pretty
Yeah,
Thing.
so that's all different eras. That was mostly Chicago, 90s
So
Chicago.
but you played in the Mekons when I saw the Mekons a few years ago at the Lodge Room. Were you were in the band or
Yeah, I was playing bass. I'm the bass
so I'll
player.
go back and look at the pictures and
Yeah, we're playing next July.
Yeah,
We have a new record coming out.
what happened to Skokie Girls? I think they're from Chicago too, right?
That's my wife's band. That's
Oh,
my wife's yeah.
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 Yeah, well,
Awesome.
yeah, well, we have I posted pictures of them too. Like, yeah, Skokie Girls. So it was a joke because, like, for a while with this photographer, like when he didn't send me some pictures, I go, hey, where's those Skokie Girl pictures? Because like, so
Rana will love to hear that.
that
Rana
was
will
like a
love to
running
hear that.
joke. Like, that was like a running joke. It's like Skokie Girls, come on. Like
Yeah, well, that was a short-lived band. She ended up putting an EP out,
yeah,
which
it seemed
is
like it seemed like it was two, and then it became one for a while, and then it just like nothing.
yeah, Rana. She became Rana Reason.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
right.
she's gonna love that we're talking about this. By the way, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Well, well, look, yeah, because I saw it while we were at the lodge room. I posted pictures
I
of it.
thought that was a great show. I thought they did
I,
fantastic.
I'll send you a link of both bands and.
Awesome, man.
But yeah, okay, Okay, so Dave Trumfio also worked with Merge Records. They've been around a while. Team B
Oh,
Records.
you're looking at my Wikipedia. That's all out of date. Nobody's
Uh,
updated that.
Yeah, but I'm just mentioning some of the labels like Darla Records. That was kind of another '90s.
Yeah, so that would have been My Morning Jacket. I did help Jim finish At Dawn. It was recorded in his barn, a silo in Louisville. And then he came up to Chicago. This is right at the end when I was living in Chicago. I was kind of going back and forth between Chicago and LA. And we finished the record together and I mixed it and stuff.
So you hooked up with the Mekons because they moved to Chicago for a while.
Yeah, well, John Langford, who's one of the main members, has been in the band with Tom the whole time. They're like the two original members. He moved to Chicago. He married, moved to Chicago, and the first way I met him was working with alternative TV. So and this goes back to John Henderson, Feel Good All Over, Tiny Global. He was putting out an alternative TV record and needed it mixed. So I had a studio. Actually, I was working at a commercial studio and I had a home studio. And you're like, hey, let's go to the nice studio. And so I went in there and John Langford and I mixed that record together. I think it's called Life as a Child Star. And that's how we met. And we just kind of became really good friends. And I ended up working with them a year or so after that when they did their first record with Touch and Go, Quarter Stick. We did Retreat from Memphis. So, and then I kind of was deputized, I guess they call it, where like we recorded a lot in the 90s together. I actually did a bunch of tours with them in the 90s. Sometimes just sound, sometimes playing like auxiliary keyboards or extra guitar and stuff. But when Sarah left the band in 2015, she was bass for probably since the late 80s, early 90s. John and Sally basically called me and said, hey, Dave, like Sarah's not going to be touring and be in the band anymore. So what do you think? And it just sounded like fun. They're like basically my older brothers and sisters. So I was just like, hey, okay, sounds good. Sounds like a working vacation to me. So that's been since 2015. I've been in the Mekons.
Is okay. So, so you didn't have anything to do with the Kathy Acker records?
Yes, I did. I recorded that.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, so I've been working with them since the 90s. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they did the spoken word one. Yeah, about that was probably
Pussy King of the Pirates. Yeah.
Yeah, I studied with Kathy at San Francisco Art Institute back in the early 90s.
Lovely lady.
And and then alternative TV is still Mark Perry. Is that the same?
Yeah, that was Mark. Mark came over. We finished that record. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I haven't talked to him since, other than through Facebook.
All right, yeah, because I think the last time I went to London, I think they were playing a show like in Camden or something. I was gonna go to it.
That's awesome. I didn't know they'd been playing shows. Wow.
I don't know if Mark was in the band, but
Yeah.
sometimes the band, some of the English bands still play. Maybe there's like
Yeah.
a bass player still in the band. Or something.
It could be Mark. I mean, Mark, I think Mark was, I mean, at least at the time when we worked, he was he was the band basically. Yeah.
So the Pulsars, I mean, is a pretty interesting group. You're going to be playing some shows in the fall.
Yep.
And you got the pulsars.com. That website's not happening anymore. Or?
Is it not working right now?
Oh no, I don't know.
It is. It is. I believe we have. Yeah, we took it over. So we have like a landing page, pulsars.com, and then we're Pulsars band on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, so yeah, I'll make sure to direct people in the right way. And
Yeah,
there's going to be some shows. There's going to be a tour in
October.
and
Yeah.
you'll play Gold Diggers.
Yes, we're gonna have a record release party. We haven't really officially announced it, but other than on our socials, but we're gonna be putting it on Bands in Town and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the Gold Digger show will be our official record reissue party.
What's
You have to come. You have to come.
Yeah. We'll meet up there. What about what's the status of Mekons? Are you gonna?
So Mekons, we just finished a new record, and it's gonna come out in the spring. I think it's gonna start. Singles are gonna be starting rolling out in winter, like early winter, and we're going to be playing a European tour in May, and we're playing a North American tour in July. And I know I saw the schedule. It's not 100%, but I'm pretty damn sure we're playing the Lodge Room again next July.
Okay, great. Okay, so Dave Trumfio, he's like the double act. He's the Mekons. He's the Pulsars. He's gonna break out and go solo. He's gonna write his.
Well, I have that too.
He's starting his memoir. He's starting his memoir pretty soon too. So look for that. And like he's an interesting cat. And thanks for talking to me. I'll definitely.
Thanks for having me.
It's like yeah. I mean, a lot of Chicago band. I mean, like Chicago and DC bands. I don't really know too much about them. Like they're a little bit. Even like Steve Albini stuff. It's like hard to have sometimes.
Yeah,
because it's like like LA punk or San Francisco punk or New York punk or London punk, I get it, but like some of these other bands, I don't even know where they're coming from. It's like what are these?
Yeah,
what are these guys?
Well, it's pretty interesting, and like you were mentioning Mike Watt earlier, maybe before we but yeah, like being like from Chicago, like I've been posting like my 20 influential albums recently on my Facebook, and I just put "Let Them Eat Jelly Beans," which is the Alternative Tentacles compilation from the early '80s, and that was a huge record for me, and it just kind of introduced me to the whole punk world really, but it kind of led me. Obviously Alternative Tentacles, but then SST and all the SoCal and the punk of the day. That was like my early discovery of music, really, like on my own, and really kind of thinking like, wow, I'm really hearing something like most people don't hear, like as like a kid,
Yeah.
And so I'm really like, after living here now for 24 years and meeting a lot of like what my heroes of the punk world, I've gotten to meet over the years, and it's pretty fun, and it's still like a really cool scene, and everybody's really laid back. I mean, it's the SoCal laid back, man.
Yeah, a lot of them live in Glassell Park too. It's like walking the street and go, "Is that the guy from the Circle Jerks?" What's going on?
Yeah. Did you see Free LSD?
I haven't seen it yet. But I went to the show about a month ago. I saw him play there live.
Okay. Yeah. I went to the Vidiot screening. Yeah.
But the LA and the San Francisco. I mean, there was a lot of compilations. Like kind of. I mean, I don't know if Chicago or DC has like those kind of equal compilations
I don't think they do. I mean, they might. There might be. But
or I mean,
I always felt like Chicago was always like 3 or 4 years behind the times at that
I mean
in that realm.
that first Decline movie is good, but I don't think it's accurate. It's sort of like
Yeah.
makes it look badder, badass.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there was a lot of goofy bands. I mean,
Yeah.
LA, part of it was kind of soft and stuff. It wasn't. It kind of makes it looks like the end, like maybe the world's gonna end like that year or something. But I don't know.
Yeah.
And that was part of the punk thing, like like, oh yeah, 1984 is coming pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember watching that movie with friends after school and being like, "Whoa, that's pretty gnarly," like. But I mean, we did have Naked Raygun. That
Oh yeah,
was a cool band.
yeah.
I mean, that I remember going to see them with Dead Kennedys and the Crucifix and a lot of like West Coast bands kind of like made their way through Chicago. Of course, I mean that was just a stop, But yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. Then I became part of the scene, and if you have any questions, always just hit me up, man. I'll let you know.
Yeah,
I know
I have a lot of questions, but we want to keep this short. But thanks for talking to me.
Thanks so much for having me.
Educating me on this Chicago thing. And look forward to everyone check out the Pulsars, check out Dave Trumfio, check out his studio, record a record with him.
That sounds great. I'm there.
Pay this guy. Okay.
All right.
See you.
Cheers.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.